Well, I'm back. It wasn't the Nazis. I was getting ready to fight them off, but no, it was just some neighbors. Um, so I still have how much juice do I have left? Oh, I got a ton of juice, and yeah, I got to go around 4:30. So anyway, I said I'd help some folk out, so that's why I came up here just to do a show. Hope you guys can find yourself back up here. So. Uh, Here we go. Oh, so everyone's going on about you know, Ukraine and Gaza and Africa. All these things that are bubbling up are being manifested. They aren't just natural cause things. The thing that just happened where they almost had a military overthrow, that was a scam. Because the president is totally corrupt, and he wanted to put a little scare into people, so he had a military ride around in the neighborhood, and then he went out and said, "Stop it," and they did, and so it's that, and then the thing in Sierra Leone, that's like that's really deadly. I mean, that's like there's like something close to 18 million people that have been their houses have been blown up and they're running around not knowing and they're starving and it's Gaza to the 10th power. And all these places have resources, and one of the resources is the people, and one of the resources is the fear. Just was listening to Jordan Maxwell. Is this a Maxwell or something new he's talking about? Because he is so all over YouTube that I can never figure out. I mean, I can look at him and say, "Oh, that's Jordan 30 years ago." Oh, there's Jordan. So what was he talking about? Because Jordan Maxwell is the bomb. There's some really people I like. Jordan Maxwell is one of them. Catherine Austin Fitz is another. Joseph P. Farrell is another. Chris Hedges, dark journalist. Democracy Now. Amy, she really does a good job. But Amy's a good example of, what do they call it? The loyal opposition, because none of this shit matters, I mean, if you're dying, you're seeing your kids blown up in shots, you see some guy put a gun in your mother's mouth and blow her brains out. Yeah, it is. That's as Stalin said, that's a tragedy. But when you kill 60 million of them, it's no big deal. I wonder what that was. Yeah, they are great listening. And what's better is they inform you to the point where you can be active yourself. I mean, why do you think? I mean, I'm a well educated guy, extraordinarily experienced guy, have some really amazing skill sets. And, most of my life, I made a good living at whatever I was doing. And the only real thing that I was, and why I could do that was that everything I did, I enjoyed doing. I didn't do anything I didn't enjoy. So as a photojournalist, I enjoyed doing that. I was a artist, a conceptual artist, and I enjoyed doing that. I was a fine art photographer, enjoyed doing that. I was a healer, a shamanic healer, right? And an acupuncturist and a physical therapist and a endocrinologist and a podiatrist, and I enjoyed doing that. But when I was a shrinky boy and I worked in an office for these guys, and I was their number one guy. First I did all of their stuff that they didn't charge for, so they could take it off their taxes, right? And I did that really, 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 really good at that. Jails and poor people and you name it, I did it, right? And schools and you name it, I did it. And because I was working actually for Brookings, I mean, I was working for these morons, but I was using them. It's like this is way before Google. I was using them as a database to do the investigations that Brookings wanted me to do. And the other guys I worked for were the BBI, which were out of the Tavistock Institute. Right? So like I had a lot of skill sets that I could do almost, and I could always be an electrician. That was my cover. I could always roll into any place around the frigging world. I mean, I did electric work in countries where I couldn't even speak their language, but I knew high voltage. And I went and they were doing something wrong, and I would just kind of move their hand out of the way and do a little few things, and bingo, it would work. And there we go. They find a little kid who could speak English, and they're like in Brazil. They found this little kid who spoke English, and he was like Dandy. Remember Dandy? So it's going to be one of those marking points because depends on. It's just like it was nose to nose with Nixon and Kennedy, and that one, where Kennedy looked like a movie star, had a nice tan. He was really cool. He was just relaxed. He was probably on so much heroin that, you know, and Nixon was sweating through his everything. And and just seeing that, and it was in black and white. Now we're going to watch this in not only color but high definition. We're going to see every pore of these guys. So it's going to be all about how they, it's all about the optics, right? So Nixon, Kennedy, optics. Kennedy won, but not by much, and they cheated every single. Go watch all of George Carlin's HBO things, and he puts it down. Someone asked me yesterday, "Do you vote?" I said, "No, I haven't been voting for." And I started to tell my stories about how I would, work for politicians, and reading the people, their constituencies, and the people they were running up against, right? And then I worked for a person who worked for both sides, meaning she represented both the morons who were running for Congress or senator or mayor or whatever, president. They didn't realize that she was working on both sides, and her employers, the hidden hand, she just was gathering all the data to figure out which way they should turn to get the maximized um, data and return out of putting X, Y, or Z. Because there isn't a single politician, and that bunch of young Turks in Congress, the what do they call themselves? The chumps or the it's Miss Cortez and the other guys, a lady who's Palestinian. She gave that big speech, and everyone said, "Oh, that's the end of her. She'll never." No, she was doing it on purpose. She will be able to be that Congressperson in Congress for as long as she wants to be there, as long as she does what she's told. All taking the envelope. All got blackmail on them. There's nobody, from your dog catcher to the president to the Pope, doesn't have a dossier, right? Now, you know, they got a dossier on me, but it doesn't matter because I tell you stories about it all the time. It's not like it's any big deal. And, you know, um, I constantly say, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with your Sensei Al Bob. And don't believe a word I say. And basically, because everything that is said, there's a germ of truth in all of propaganda. Right? And then amongst it is the emotional trigger, right? Why do you think I read people's palms? That's so I can understand their emotional trigger. I see it because I say, oh, you're empathetic. Oh, you're honest. Oh, you really hold your cards close to the vest. You never tell anybody anything. Oh, you worry too much. Oh, I got a whole bag of things I can see right away about them. And then what I'm really looking at is not so much the stuff I'm telling them, but how they respond to it. I look their body language. I look at your there's a thing called a pallor, your skin, and it changes, and it's very subtle. And if you're aware of it, it's like people cannot lie to looking at the pallor of someone's skin and what they're doing. You know what I mean? Know what I mean, man? So um, that's where we're at. So, right, it doesn't matter who's going to win. Um, you know, look, my little road, nobody's ever on this road. It seems like turning into those people I do know. Bottom line, um, if Donald Trump, see, the thing about Donald Trump, he is so transparent. You can see exactly what he's going to do. He tells you what he's going to do, right? Well, Joe Biden, not so much. He's been a politician for 70 years. In the Senate, in Congress, and his state of Maryland is a real, pale of snakes. So that's where the insurance business is. That's where it's. And every point in the last 60 years, when some war broke out or some dastardly, when things were getting decontrolled, when they okayed the thing about slicing investments up into baloney and then selling it to everybody so it's not worth anything and you can take all their money and then you pull the rug out from underneath them. That's what happened in '08. Joe Biden was premier on that one. And George H. went into Iraq and Iran, but Obama and specifically President Biden at the time. So Biden's going to be the first guy to be president 8 times. So um, that's the interesting thing, and no one sees any of this. It's right in front of our faces, and no one sees it. So tonight will be a very good harbinger of what will happen. Meaning, if Donnie can be cool and be sharp and really put forth a really interesting show without doing what he's been doing for the last 6 years. It's not fair. They stole it. Blah blah blah. Well, he should go a little further than everything's rigged and show how it is rigged because it is rigged. Because the people in America don't get anybody don't get to choose who they want to represent them because before the Republican and the Democrat run against each other, um, they have these things where 3 or 4 Republicans run against each other and 3 or 4 Democrats run against each other, and all that is like getting the powers that be to know which one they can buy the best, and the one who they can sucker in and blackmail and control 100%. That's the guy who will be running. And between the Republican and Democrat, and back in the day, up until the 1950s, and this is why we had the Red Scare, is that we had about 12 parties. It wasn't just the Democrats and Republicans. It was the Labor Party, the Union Party, there was the Communists, the Socialists, and there were about 5 other parties. And so our government was, from about 1880 until 1950, our party was made up of all these different groups. And so we instead of having all Republicans and Democrats and having everything diametrically opposed, they basically had all these different groups making deals. And so it actually kind of worked, kind of. And between the 1880s and the 1950s, that was the best time for the American public. They got the most out of their government. They had the best in their life, right? I mean, still they were sucked into wars and used as fodder, as blood sacrifice. But they were getting a few more crumbs, not so much now. And the more crumbs you get, the less you really have. It's not until, like me, I gave up everything. I owned loads of properties, had stocks, had money in the bank. Never had to worry about anything monetarily, right? But I was always thinking, "Ooh, maybe I want a new car. Ooh, maybe I want to go take this trip, or maybe and I bought all kinds of stuff. I bought so much stuff that I had to buy other houses to put the stuff into. And what I have here in the deep green is like 1/100th of the stuff I had, and it's so I have instead of 400 packs of safety pins, I got 3 packs. There's fish. Hey, fish. Sorry, we got disconnected last night because it was a miracle that we were talking, and twice. First I had to jump off and help my friend over the phone fix his electrical problem, and then we were just talking, and bingo, kind of, you know, the waves went the other way. So, and Fish and I were talking about, what we're talking about right now, the stuff that's going on, and basically the dynamic of the wars and all of that isn't Muslims against Christians or Jews or you know communists against capitalists or fascists against democracy. None of that shit exists. you know. Uh, yep. Who's this person? That's the other boy. I mean, it's like normally, cars don't come up and down that road for like weeks. You know? Now it's like the old radio waves. Yep, they come. It is around here. By Verizon or there's this thing called rich people. It's called Gold Link, right? And they put in like 8 zillion tons of fiber on the power lines to the point that they're snapping every week. 3 and 4. We have lost 20 of those poles on the county road. So everybody loses electricity for about 4 hours. And sometimes when they snap, they cause really nasty car accidents. And they're just hanging more fiber onto it. It's like a mind boggling. And I talked to the guy who was, had to wait, and they were like working, and they're flagmen, and I'm stopped there, and this guy, and he's all dressed up like he's going to go hunting in Africa or something, and he's got his little tablet. I go, yo, you, and he's like, I say, that's right, you, over here, and I said, so you're in charge, and he goes, how can you tell? I said, well, look at everyone else. They're fat, they're stupid, they don't have a wardrobe like you, and you're driving, the Explorer version of the Land Rover, which costs $300,000. I said, no, I got the XL one. It's $600,000. So we were talking, and I said, so who's paying for it? Oh, it's a federal grant. It's been in the works for 10 years. If I just bought one of those Mad Max gated community lots. Oh well, that's free for you. Even in capitals, it's hard to read sometimes. You have to get the exact spacing. That's the head. Let's see. Scalar waves. Yep. Get rid of some of this stuff here, so I can read what you guys are saying. Uh, So, he's going to be running the presidential debate, and it's really whatever kind of show he's on, because man, that boy, he is. What I have to do is look at him because he has, quite a, pedigree. He's been in politics for 60 something years, and so you go look at him when he was, county commissioner, and then when he was state representative, and then when he was congressman, and then when he's senator, and you can see how he's changed all the way up the line until now. And so he is not, you know, and anything that people say about him, it's not even close to what it is. I mean, when people are going on about the pizza guys and the this and the that and the terrible things with children in the basement, and that's not even close. It's like, and it's all the same guys. And that's why they whacked what's his name, who had Lolita Island. Yeah, good old dragon. What you know, I don't know. A lot of people were bopped off, and some people like Buddy. You got to hold him. He talks to me on my email, but we can't figure out how to get him on the chat. It's quite very interesting. Yep, nothing's the same, but it is. That's the interesting thing. Nothing changes, but nothing's the same, and that shows the erroneous dynamic of our lives. And that what we're living. You just see that? Do you just see that little jitter? That little jitter in the frame? That was the dynamic of our avatar catching up with the hard drive, right? So the kids who wrote the movie about what's it's called when you were a computer simulation and there's Neo and all of that, the architect and the grandma with the chocolate chip cookies. Um, you know, that's where we are, kids. So the best thing you can do is serve love's co-creation, the Matrix. Yep, that's it. And so you can either get caught up in the Matrix, which is not a nice thing. You can realize you're in it, like the guy who, I forget his name, but he was the guy who ratted out them all and told them, I just want to be the richest guy, someone famous, like a movie star, get laid a lot, have lots of money, smoke these nice cigars, eat in really nice restaurants, not get fat, not get sick, don't die he was good to make off his checkoff list. But it ends up just like that Twilight Zone from the 50s, where this guy who's a nickel and dime street thief gets shot, and he wakes up in this beautiful apartment with all these pretty girls, and this guy looks like Santa Claus, little chunkier than me, and he's his concierge, and make sure everything's. He's always winning at craps. He's always getting the girl. He's always getting the table. Always life is just great, but after a while it gets boring, and he goes, maybe I should lose once in a while, a little excitement. Anyway, so he and nothing is. It's just like living cardboard. And then he asks this guy, "So what is up with it? What is heaven? Heaven really sucks this bad?" And the guy goes, "What made you think you were in heaven?" And the guy goes, "What do you mean? Where am I?" And the guy kind of looks down. He goes, "You mean I'm in the other place?" And the guy goes, "Yep. And this is where you're going to be for the rest of forever." And that's pretty much where everyone is stuck right now. Mm. And you look at Elon Musk. He doesn't look too happy, right? Does Donald Trump look too happy? Not too much. But your Sensei Al Bob, look at his face. You know, it's because I really have nothing and I have everything. Right? I'm I don't have to worry about anything. It'll work out. I just let God take over and it works out. Right? And every time I just have a little nickel, I'm worrying. It's like, Okay, okay, okay. I won't worry. I won't worry. Okay. Yeah. So that's what it is. Um, what else can I say? Mm-mm-mm. Mm-mm. Mm-mm-mm. Can't think of anything else to say. Um, uh, what time is it? Mm, I got another 20 minutes at least. So every time I hear that dearly beloved, it makes me think of Prince. That guy was great. He had, and I was listening to Steely Dan. Any of you guys out there listen to Steely Dan? One of my favorite bands. And they were at, it's not Montana Palace. What was the name of the place? Something Roadhouse. It was a great bar in New York City, and it was a showcase, right? It was a restaurant, and bar, really big one that could seat maybe 200 or 300 people up front, and in the back was a big like nightclub, right? And they had shows. People come, and what was the best thing about it was that guys like the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and everybody who was anybody at the time would go there through the back door, right? And they would get these big steaks and a great onion rings and amazing baked potatoes and bread and really good booze, and people would get up and start singing, and other people would get there were tons of instruments ready to be played. You didn't have to bring your instrument, and you would just get up there and you'd see the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and Richie Havens and Jimi Hendrix all playing on the stage at once. I mean, this place was the bomb. What was it called? Max's Kansas City. That was it. And go Google that place. Let's see. Let's go. I had you Google uh, the ear in the other day. A lot of people thought, I can't believe you. Yeah. So we Googled the ear in. So, okay. Max's Kansas City in New York City. Yeah, that's it. That was the front of the place. And they were redoing the building, so that was like the stuff so you wouldn't get hit on the sidewalk. Yep, this is it. Went down basement. That was well. I guess this is the newer version because um, back in the day when I was there, it wasn't that swanky. Oh, here we go. This is the old days. So it's still in existence. Yeah, this is back in the old days. That's what it looked like. So that was one of the places I, wired, and there were about 10 clubs that I would go visit at least once or twice a week, make sure like the exit lights still worked and this, and they would like slip me a Benjamin and give me dinner, and I would make sure everything was fine, and I that's how I met a lot of people, and so I met Lauren Michaels. Hmm. Let's see. Well, he should be loved. Others you cannot lose. Mayor Baba. Yep. Well, Mayor Baba would have made a great rock and roller. Um, you know, George of the Beatles. He definitely sucked on that straw. And so did John Lennon. So did they all. The guy who was the best, most professional, best musician of all of them was Ringo Starr. Because when he joined the band, they were like garage band, and he was the real thing. So, and that's why I love Ringo. He was really I mean, he was. The other guys took themselves too serious. George didn't. Once George started drinking from the straw, he didn't take himself that serious. And once he had these three true loves in his life, he was like, "Whoa!" Right? So, but Ringo was there, and so I talked to him a couple of times, and he was a deep individual. That's why he's still the guy there. Um, you know, and he's accessible. I don't know how accessible Paul is, but and if that's really the Paul, right? You know what I mean, man? So there were three of you there, and now there's two. There's one thumbs up. How about some more? And the 500 of you guys who watch this show, um, you know, why don't you tell others? Let's see how many people we can get. We can get above 500 subscribers. Because I once had a Jerry Lewis kind of telethon where I stayed on for like 18 hours. I got myself I was living at the school with John, and he had some kind of ratty thing, looked like black jacket, white shirt, and a tie, a bow tie that you tied, and I was wearing it. Anyway, I did that. I got almost 1,000 subscribers. It went from I started out at about 350 and got up to 1,000. Once it went past 1,000, it zoomed up to like 1,500, and then it started going blah, 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 and went down to 200. And I stayed there at 200 for about a year. It was pretty fun. So, and I used to say, "Oh, guys, I have this PayPal. Why did you send it to me?" I forget it. I don't even go there anymore. It's not even worth my breath because they change everything every time someone drops some money. Well, I have to put this code. We'll protect you. Blah 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 blah. It's like screw that. You know. So anyway, um, so from tonight, just keep an eye on how things get weirder and weirder. And I would say, before the summer is over, before the election, um, Israel and Russia are going to drop a few nukes. And I mean, no big deal. I mean, they'll probably shoot one. Ukraine will start getting some serious equipment. They will start really hitting Russia. And they won't go after the people like Russia's going off after they killed close to 10,000 to 50,000 um, innocent civilians in Ukraine, and probably killed somewhere because now the average age of the Ukrainian soldier is 45. Usually it's 22. So Ukrainians probably lost at least 100,000, if not way more, soldiers, and Russia similarly lost somewhere between 100 and 300,000. And so it's getting to a point of diminishing returns. And see, Ukraine will not have to worry about demographics. Russia will. Because right now, Russia is like China. They have more old people than young people. And they don't have anybody in the diaspora who will come back. So, but Ukraine does. And there are a lot of people who will come into Ukraine. Like if I'm in good health and I can get a passport, I'll show up in Ukraine. I mean, if I was as young, with so many different countries that I went and visited between 16, between 14 and 40. And I lived in about seven of them for like 3 months to almost a year, right? Where I got to be able to speak their language pretty good. And I had a good thing going on. And I could have stayed in any one of those places. And it would have been I wouldn't be me, but it would have been interesting. And I'm sure in another dimension there is a me in every one of those places and about 1,000 more. Um, having a good time. So, but keep an eye on those subtle little jitters. Like there was a little, about 20 minutes ago. And I said, see, do you notice that? And because things were changing in the dimensional portal, right? The other thing is you need to, like the last show I did was quite interesting. I started doing a real serious guided meditation and it got knocked out. And as soon as I said that, we went from 5 people watching down to 3. How much juice do I have left? What time is it? So, unless you guys got a serious question, I'm going to do a guided meditation here with you, and we'll see if they'll knock us off. Because I think, therefore I am. What did I do? I hate it when I do that. Put something, it's like within 13 inches of me and I can't find it. There it is. It was hiding. Oh, let's see if the yesterday's shows went up there. Do, 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 do. Boo, 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 boo. There's me live. What about the last 2 shows? Yeah, I guess it did. Yep. After a few days, I roughly get between 30 and 18 views. And I roughly get between 6 and 2 thumbs up. And again, it's irrelevant, but it just goes to, I'm a demographic guy. I look at the numbers sometimes. Let's see. Carnage and nothing does what a pantomime. Yep. So that's pretty much it, a pantomime of life, right? So the whole thing is to ground yourself because when you you go home, you're not home in your body. You're not home when you're awake. You're in your thoughts, right? That's going home, right? All of your blood chemistry goes to where it should. You go to homeostasis. That allows you to be conscious of your higher conscious, right? Close your eyes. On a count of 3, and as I do, you go deeper and deeper and deeper into a state of relaxation. 1, you're breathing in that prana, that golden light of God's love. See it clearly. See it going in through your nose, you're filling your lungs. All that love's co creation is going to every cell of your body, right? And that's where you heal yourself. No matter what is wrong with you, you can heal yourself by breathing in prana. That's why I'm alive. I died in 2014, right? And came back. And every morning I wake up dead, but I wake up with that, and I feel all that pain, and it goes away. And I go into state, and I feel what I need to do that day, and I go about doing it, right? To serve love's co creation, right? And every day in every way, you take the peace of the world and you make it stronger. You do that, and these wars will stop, right? They cannot, love is stronger than any other emotion. Love brings forgiveness. Forgiveness brings understanding. Understanding brings patience and fellowship. See it clearly. Feel yourself going home. Yep. But don't you can forget to like, but don't forget to breathe. 'Cause breathing in that prana heals every cell of your body. If you have anything wrong with you and you're still alive, the only reason you are is because love's co-creation is taking care of you. See it clearly. And three, you're in a deep, 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 deep state of relaxation. Your conscious mind is at rest. And this is where you go at sleep. Your conscious mind, your body, your avatar, goes on autopilot. And then your superconscious mind is released into your Akashic record, the library of everything. And, to the left is all these big stacks of books. To the right is all these nine doors that will take you into the major arteries of dimensional existence. See it clearly. And in front of you is this gigantic fireplace, just like the one in Harry Potter where they would go places, right? Up the chimney. That's where Santa Claus goes. Right? He doesn't really have a sled. He just goes into his chimney and bang comes out into your living room. And now that we're going into electric heating, well, we're that's going to be hard for Santa. So anyway, how are we doing for electricity? A little bit left. So I'll bring you back. So there you are. See that big fireplace, and in front of it is this nice little couch and cushy chairs and a nice coffee table with never-ending yummy coffee and little sandwiches. And you can have anybody come and visit you in your Akashic records, and you can sit on that couch and talk about anything. Sure. You better do it quick. Next 5 minutes. Give me some questions, and I'll give you some answers. We're down to one. We went from five to one. Just you and me, Rhonda. Let's see. Are there ever dragons in the world? Of course there are. Still are dragons in the world. We have a good friend of ours named Dragon. He's still here. Too bad he can't. Haven't been able to figure out how to get him on our live chat. So, any name is basically a metaphor, right? So, what's a dragon? Someone. You See, there's so many different dimensions. You can go visit anything you want to visit, or you can be just stuck in this boring cardboard box that we call reality. Well, it's up to you. So, uh, so yes, when I would go visit things with the old crone, we would go to her fireplace to lots of different dimensions. We still do. Yeah, the moon landing was real. But the Nazis got there about 15 years before Neil Armstrong. And Neil Armstrong was a Mason, so he was a Nazi too. No, no. And the LEM was a basically gravitational. It was it didn't go there via chemicals, like liquid oxygen and kerosene. No, it had a gravomagnetic propulsive system because once it left the Van Allen belt, which protects us from the radiation, those guys would have gotten barbecued. So that little LEM, and it was like made out of toothpicks and aluminum foil. Um, so they and luckily they when they got in it, they had no gravity because if they had their weight, they would go right through the floor. And so, no, it's those boys did go there. And here's a good one for you. The moon, in Star Wars, the Death Star, that is the moon. The moon is a artificial spaceship and has been there. I mean, all the other moons and all the other planets, this is almost like Casablanca, and all the other gin joints, but all the other moons and all the other planets in our solar system, like Jupiter has 12 of them, they're always going around. You can see not, one side faces Earth at always the same time. The other one, the dark side that the Chinese went to visit, and they haven't shown us any pictures from that side, because that's where they got the other Disneyland up there, because Adolf and what's his name, Walt's older brother were tight. They were boyfriend girlfriend. Ask a question, Fish. Um, so it was real, and the moon is a artificial spaceship that's been there for quite a long time, and that George Lucas got the whole idea of Star Wars from Joseph Campbell. If you ever go read any of Joseph Campbell's works, and he has one about the hero, the myth of the hero. It's the whole Star Wars trilogy, mythology, the whole thing, right? And there is what is the Van Allen belt or the asteroid belt, or is the last refuge of the home planet. Earth wasn't it in the be all. Earth used to be just a gummy, you know, muddy, where reptiles lived, and the other planets were all different things. Like Venus, those people are gas individuals. I mean, those planets still have people on them, right? From the galactic whoop-de-doo, right? And so they're trying to get the band back together. They're trying to get the federation, and that's why we're having these wars and all this conflict and all this craziness, because they are trying to force the humans to go along. And again, the Matrix. We had a Matrix where everything was perfect and everybody, had what they wanted. It was all great and all good. Yep, humans just were just nasty pieces of work, and so we got what we got now. And so they're trying to work it back into that one in this cardboard reality that we have. I don't think it's going to work too easy, because the only thing that's going to work, Jesus came here to tell us, only thing that works, kids, is love. And God said that over and over and over, so patient, but he just kept looking at Israel, and Israel was like his bitchy girlfriend who stole his cigarettes and took his loose change. It was just terrible. Atlantis. Well, Atlantis is still here. It's down underwater. If you know anybody who's been in the Navy, right, and who has been on board a ship and been on watch, I have a couple of friends who were in the nuclear, like in submarines, right, and so. And those guys, they get the best of the best, and then they rewire their brains, right? So I knew a couple of guys before they went in the Navy, and they weren't quite the same once they came out. A little robotic. And Jimmy, um, you know, our president Jimmy, he's a good example. Mm-mm-mm. So what time is it now? Yeah, it's getting close. Okay, kids. Now get everyone's phone number and talk to yourselves, and I'll try and see you tomorrow. Okay? Okay. Love you guys. Gotta go.